Let's start from the top real quick, shall we? Because this situation keeps getting crazier and crazier. Essentially, yesterday, it was brought to our attention that an artist had a lot of their art stolen to create many assets within Marathon. And not just things within Marathon, but including the ARG. Inspiration's not even the word. It was a straight up copy pasta. Someone took that shit, plugged it as their own shit, and you can't deny the fact that Anti-Real's art, her art, was in some ways the core identity for what Marathon is, especially for the ARG. So this is from the Marathon dev team. This was posted last night, 11:21 p.m. We immediately investigated a concern regarding unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon and confirmed that a former Bungie artist included these in a texture sheet that was ultimately used in game. This issue was unknown by our existing art team, and we are still reviewing how this oversight occurred. We take matters like this very seriously. We have reached out to Anti-Real to discuss this issue and are committed to do right by the artists. As a matter of policy, we do not use the work of artists without their permission. To prevent similar issues in the future, we are conducting a thorough review of our in-game assets, specifically those done by the former Bungie artists, and implementing stricter checks to document all artist contributions. We value the creativity and dedication of all artists who contribute to our games, and we are committed to doing right by them. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Yesterday, we left after we originally covered this, thinking that maybe it was a third party. To be quite honest with you, from a PR stance, it would have been better if it was a third party. Turns out that wasn't the case. It was someone directly working at Bungie. So Lucky brings up a great point right here. What about the current Marathon employees and art team that literally follow the artists on this app? Your whole art team follows the artist that has been developing this art style for 10 plus years, and you didn't think to give them any attribution. This isn't an oopsie you can blame on a former employee. Your current employees follow the small artist with a niche style, and then you just coincidentally happen to launch an entire game themed after it, not buying it. Yes, many of the Marathon developers follow this artist. Guys, this isn't like art that was posted last year. You know what I mean? This was art that was posted in 2017, before Marathon was even announced. You know, before Marathon was even in development. It'd be one thing, it was like, oh, I came across these images randomly when surfing the internet and came across this, but you're following the person directly, dude. All right, so anyways, we got that, right? And then Anti-Real has now replied, completely overwhelmed by the response to this. Thank you so much for the support, and especially to those who have donated. It helps enormously. So again, this is her art. Can you imagine? I just want to just back up real quick, because look, some people were commenting yesterday when we were first covering this and was like, why does this even matter? And it's like, all right, I'm not an artistic person. I can't draw worth the shit. You know what I mean? I think the most thing I've ever done is I drew SpongeBob. That's the most artistic. Had I committed myself to the craft, and this became my life, all right? And so much so that it's my career. If suddenly I see my shit getting plastered on a multi-billion dollar company for a new IP, and it is literally identical, I can't even imagine how I would be pissed. I'm actually amazed it took Anti-Real until yesterday to say something. Like for real. Like I would be screaming immediately after the damn trailer. Let me just say this. I want to say there's a distinct difference between the teams here, but the Marathon team, they have stepped in a pile of shit, man. I could never even envision how big the pile could have been, the potential of this pile of shit, but it is the largest pile of shit. The only other thing that could possibly happen that would be worse than this is like the Marathon story was stolen too, you know, or some shit like that. You know what I mean? All right, hold on. Let me pull up this article. Bungie stealing Marathon artist, probably the last straw, by Paul Tassi right here. This article was posted this morning, actually just a few minutes ago. Marathon developer Bungie has been accused of and has now admitted to stealing artwork used in the current build of Marathon from an artist who first published the work in 2017. That artist is Anti-Real, who posted several comparisons of her work and existing Bungie Marathon assets, which go far beyond inspiration and often are directed one-to-one lifts of images, words, symbols, and even Anti-Real's own personal logo. Guys, do you understand what's being said here? The copying was so blatant that the artist who copied it forgot to remove the logo. It's amateur hour shit. I'm not saying I would be good at stealing stuff, but Jesus, you can't even scrub the damn logo? Bungie is, of course, not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language I have refined for the last decade, but clearly my work was good enough to pillage for ideas and plaster all over the game without pay or attribution. Within a matter of hours, As this began to spread virally, Bungie issued a statement saying it was a former Bungie artist who included the details in a texture sheet that ultimately went into the game. The issue was supposedly unknown by the existing art team, but obviously many questions have been raised about all of this as Bungie continues to investigate. There's no disrupting the asset rips. They are one-to-one in many cases that are clear to see. The result of that, if Bungie will simply cut the artist a check and credit them, is unclear. It's possible that legal action could be pursued here, but the artist did not seem to think they had the resources to mount the campaign. That could change, given the attention that the story has now gotten. I mean, look, as much inspiration is being drawn here, needs a permanent job, at least, and a check. However, there are now larger questions being raised about Anti-Real and Marathon's overall aesthetic. Looking at the image gallery of their work, the design language the artist mentions could easily be early concepts or for Marathon designs if you didn't know any better, from the images themselves to even the cool color palette. It is true that this artist did not invent an entire genre of art, but even across well-known cyberpunk influences in media, I've yet to see anything this close to the gap between this work and Marathon. And obviously, there were directly pieces lifted straight from it. So Bungie had its eye on it in some capacity. They're following her. They were following her. An additional wrinkle is that it's been discovered several Bungie employees have been following the account, including Game's current art director who followed her for years, she said, without any communication from him or anyone else at Bungie. Her work went up in 2017. By most accounts, Marathon started development around 2018 in some capacity. Taking a vibe as opposed to exact pieces is harder, if not impossible to prove, but in this case, perception is quickly becoming reality. The narrative is hardening. Marathon, among many criticisms, always at least had its unique art style and aesthetic as a bright spot. That's Paul, what a great point. What a great point. Dude, I will say some things look unrendered, but the unique art style and aesthetic in terms of like character design and like the art style they're trying to go for in that direction. I think the character designs themselves, I'm pretty sure those are Joe Cross's, his designs, right? It's just like the ARG especially looks so similar to Anti-Real's images. And that was front and center for everybody for multiple weeks for us to look at. Now it's going to be impossible to bring it up in the future without the plagiarism being referenced. And even if it's just a handful of assets that were ripped, it would be very hard to get around the theory that a lot of the initial conceptual aesthetic was directly from this one artist. I believe it is too early to start naming and blaming specific individuals within Bungie, but the studio will need to do an intense investigation into this and come out with a lengthy explanation in addition to the terms they've come to with the artist publicly. And they may promise this will not happen in the future, but it has now happened 4 times in the past 4 years. The others with Destiny fan art that was lifted in some capacity for the game or in merchandise, that was the third-party contractors, however, and this is Bungie in-house. That's what makes this a bigger deal, guys. The previous thefts was third parties. This was in-house. This is somebody on the payroll, man, working for you direct, working in, you see where I'm coming from? That's why this is a bigger deal. This is a bigger deal than Ace of Spades. I've had serious doubts about Marathon's ultimate viability in the PvP extraction shooter market for a while now, doubly so after an underwhelming closed alpha a few weeks back. But to lose the one point of pride about how cool the design, work, and aesthetic is, and this perception now seemingly etched in stone, it feels almost back-breaking. It is certainly true that there are dozens, if not hundreds, of artists who have worked on Marathon and have nothing to do with this at all, producing their own original work, but the well is now poisoned. Oh, that's a great point. Marathon is supposed to have a ride-along alpha feedback session with game director Joe Ziegler today, which was already moved once, and it's a little hard to imagine that's not going to be overwhelmed by this story. And I can only imagine that chat will be like, so we'll see if it's moved again. Yeah, we're going to be watching that later today, guys. It will be Joe Ziegler. It will be some of the Marathon devs, and we'll be watching that and talking about some things. And I know the focus, it was supposed to be last Friday. I know the focus was supposed to be on just gameplay, but I'm almost certain, dude, that chat is going to be full of people. It may be in emote mode, dude. I feel bad for Joe, what he's about to walk into, dude, because Joe, this guy is just, I tell you right now, Joe's just, his Valorant background, he's just gaming. He's just constantly just like refining systems, trying to get the gameplay loop down. I highly doubt Joe was like, yeah, steal that art. This Joe, you know, Joe Ziegler. Joe Cross is over art. Joe Ziegler is the game director. Not that this shouldn't have been caught. Obviously, it should have been caught. But he's about to walk in hellfire today, dude. And this is Anti-Real's portfolio. You know, some of her artwork. Can I just say this, guys? I think she has a very unique style, and I completely understand why people at Bungie follow her. I like her style so much. I think, I was talking to Luke about it. We'll see if we can get in touch with her. We've done some like merch stuff in the past, but we don't really have like a true merch line. I would love to set something up with Anti-Real. I know she's got a lot of stuff on her plate right now, but dude, I think she would make some killer merch. You know what I mean? We'll set it up where it's, royalty to her and everything. So, and hopefully things pan out. But we'll continue to monitor this story all around. It's bad. It's terrible for Bungie. It's terrible for Marathon. And at this point, my question to you guys, do you delay Marathon? You're now looking at a PR nightmare. Do you delay it? 100% delay, reskin, take feedback from the alpha, and enhance the game. I would say this for Bungie, get out ahead of this as quickly as you can. Get in conversations with that artist. Get Anti-Real on your team. Bring her in and cut her a check. And don't try to bury this shit, This is one of those things where Bungie, remember last year when Bungie was like, we have a strike team. They were like, we have a strike team now for PvP. We take PvP very seriously. You need a strike team for quality control. You need a quality control strike team. You need a strike team just to sit there and sift through this shit to make sure this stuff doesn't happen in the future. That's the next strike team. There needs to be quality control and just accountability across the board, man. And it needs to be like an independent strike team that operates between both Marathon and Destiny. 100% Sony is not going to delay again. Yeah. Can you imagine being Sony in this situation? Like, they're waking up. They're like, what the hell's going on over there? We'll see what Joe has to say today. I'm going to be watching the stream. But again, this is a PR shithole that should have never happened. But here we are, man. Here we are. I feel like the move that needs to happen is Sony dissolves Bungie, except a small team to maintain Destiny 2 and cancels Marathon. Here's the thing, guys. Y'all need to understand something. You guys keep saying Sony needs to dissolve Bungie. The purpose that Bungie spent, the purpose Sony spent all the money they spent is for Bungie's expertise in live service games. Okay, you get expertise, right? And talent retention. You guys, Sony doesn't have if they had all this other talent to replace the folks at Bungie with, they would have done it. Their other talent is working on other games. They're already working on other shit. But they fired everyone. Sony didn't fire everyone. There were delays and Bungie missed targets. I don't know. We don't have the contract in front of us or contracts. But there's a certain level of profitability that Bungie is having to maintain right now. And I know it's tied to stocks being invested. And the biggest priority for the executives at Bungie is maintaining a certain level of profitability. The problem is you've lost incredible talent. Now, you've seen some of the people come back, but I think this really comes down to one singular issue. In my opinion, I think Bungie is leaderless. Look, I give Bethesda a lot of shit. I talk a lot of shit about Bethesda. Starfield, ass. But I got to give Todd credit. Todd, whether it's a dub or an L, he sits on stage, he gets the camera pointed at him. I got to give Todd credit, man. He gets up there and he takes it. And what I like is when I see leaders get on in front of us, in front of the community, in front of gamers, and take accountability for things, win or losses. And it tells me that there is a person there who is the face of this company, and it matters to them, and they are there to take the hits when it's necessary or when it needs to be. And they're also there to uplift their teams. So again, didn't like Starfield. I'm liking what Bethesda's doing, and I like that Todd rolls with the punches. Another development studio that has great leadership in Digital Extreme. Just the way DE does things, and Steve is in front, and he's like bouncing between team and team. That's what you want to see from a CEO. When was the last time any of us have seen Pete? Just pointing it out, man. Well, I haven't seen Pete since 2017, 2018, maybe the launch of Destiny 2. Path of Exile developers, also fantastic about being right there in front of your face. They're the ones delivering the news to you, good or bad, even when they had delays, right there in front of you, delivering the news. And so leadership is incredibly important, man. And there's a level of accountability that goes with that, because when you're leaderless, you could sit on the outsides, on the outskirts, and pretend like, oh, but it wasn't me, man. I wasn't in charge. You know what I mean? I'm not in charge. But when you're the face of the studio and you're like, I'm leading this thing, I'm the guy or I'm the woman, everything comes through me. You take the wins with the losses, and you gotta be the one held accountable. You can't just hide. And I feel like we're in a situation where well, I'm not talking about game directors. Joe Ziegler's in front of us. Tyson Green gets in front of us. Robbie gets in front of us. You can't just throw your game directors up there and expect them to take all the blows. You got to have one singular leader that comes out there and holds the shit together. And I just don't feel like we get that right now with Bungie. And we haven't gotten that in a long time. My problem with some of these companies is like, unfortunately, we live in a world where the people that would make fantastic leaders don't end up being in leadership. So for instance, Tyson Green, I think he would do great being one of the head honchos, not just game director, but like potentially even CEO. You know what I mean? My thing is this: what hoops does Tyson, is that ever even a possibility for Tyson? Could that ever even be a possibility for him? Because you've got your board, you've got Pete that's been embedded in there, since 2016. You've got founders. There's so many politics, so many moving parts, man, that unfortunately the people that would make fantastic leaders, they may never see those positions ever. Pete is not the problem. He did not design the systems Destiny 2 released with. Pete also did not steal art from that dude. The problem is that Bungie is incompetent. Look. Let me just say this. When you're CEO, it's your job, okay? It's the same reason why CEOs across the board in every industry, man. It's called accountability, okay? It's like being captain of the ship, all right? You can't be blaming people. It falls on you. And by the way, man, the best CEOs are CEOs that wears multiple hats, man. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I like Digital Extremes so much. All of those people that are in leadership at Digital Extremes, they all have worn multiple hats. When you can be both the game director, the writer, one person, game director, writer, voice actor. You see where I'm coming from on this, guys? You're not beholden to your one fucking task. I don't know. I just feel like things are just too complicated, man, with how things work at Bungie internally. You need me to be able to step in and do whatever needs to be done. You need to know what's going on in every department if you're a leader. Yeah, you really do. And I don't really understand. Like, some of you guys, some people in here like suck off CEOs for some reason. That's not a CEO's job. Good CEOs are supposed to make you a lot of money and keep you from fucking lighting fires everywhere. Why is anyone even beholden to them? Who gives a shit? Good leadership is good leadership. Whether it's a CEO or a fucking, manager at some random franchise, it don't matter. Good leadership is just respected. Here's what I want from good leadership. Pay me well, keep us from going bankrupt. Respect my time, which goes into paying me well. That's pretty much it. Keep us from going bankrupt. Don't fucking make some stupid moves. Keep us profitable, pay me well. CEOs should definitely get the blame. And normally, look, they do. In a lot of industries, they do, man. That's why they let go CEOs all the time. They change them out. And that's why other CEOs, it blows my mind with Pete, but that's why other CEOs remain CEOs for as long as they remain, because they do good. And normally they have their name carries a lot of weight. How is it the CEO's duty to face some shit that's been done by some random moron inside of the studio? Well, here's step one. Don't fire your quality control team and then sit there with a Pikachu face when quality falls off. There you go. Sure, the CEO probably could have done, is he the one checking this shit every day? No, but probably shouldn't have fired everybody in your fucking damn quality control team. Just saying. Do you think Bungie is guilty? When you say guilty of what? They've already acknowledged that yes, this art was ripped, but it was done by a previous artist at Bungie. We're guilty, yes. Bungie themselves have admitted that yes, they are at fault. How they handle it, though, we'll have to just wait and see. I'm not saying that what they did was okay, but it seems they were forced to. The artist was forced to steal this art. Brother, that's like the meme of the guy shooting the guy and going, why did you make me do that? What? We can't drum through mental gymnastics here on this, guys. Man, dude, I tell you what, gamers, you fuckers. I already know it. We step off into some bullshit someday, y'all gonna roast my ass like crazy. The amount of people that will defend some shit, y'all fucking, the mental gymnastics that y'all go through, the mental defense here, man, is second to none. God damn it. Bring back to my point, guys. I just respect good leadership. That's it, man. It's the reason why people tune in for Warren Buffett, and that was his last, recently when Berkshire, his last time, I think, being the head there for Berkshire. But to me, there's a reason why people tune into things like that, or Nvidia's CEO. You know what I mean? People like to tune in and listen to good leaders. Why? Well, because they have a track record of being good fucking leaders. What did they do? Made a lot of money, kept people from losing their jobs, compensated them well. Normally, sometimes, maybe not all the time, not every CEO, but the great ones, right? The Nvidia CEO is a piece of shit. I tell you what, I don't know him personally, but the man can talk. You know what I'm saying? The man can talk. I mean, dude, every time Nvidia CEO starts talking, I'm like, this printing right now. He's printing right now. Charisma doesn't make you a good person. No, that's why they said, that's why there was a statistic put out that most CEOs are psychos or borderline sociopaths, psychopaths. Y'all know the scene from Wolf of Wall Street where Leonardo's talking and he was like, you know, he was talking about taking people's money and he was like, it's not that I wanted to take their money. It's just, I felt like their money was better in my hands than in their hands. Do you understand the rationality behind that? They don't say that shit because they don't believe it. They say that shit because they truly believe that. Your money is better in my hands than in your hands. And look, unfortunately, super wealthy people, that's what's in their mind.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.